Hi everyone, this is Ms. Carvalho, and today we're going to go over the Unit 2 Functions Test, Part 2. So this was the part that was on paper. So hopefully you have your paper, you could see which ones you got wrong and right, and kind of focus on those questions as we go through them together today. All right, so first we've got number 1, which was find the graph of the equation that is parallel to this line. We think that most of you skipped this word parallel completely and you just graphed this line because a lot of people miss this question. So if we were graphing this line, if we were graphing it, we would look for the y-intercept, which was at positive 2. So this one works, and this one works. This one doesn't, so we already know it's C. Not a lot of you pick C. And this one doesn't. So I think some of you said, oh, that this has got to be it because this is the slope 7/3 and this is the graph. This is the graph. Y equals 7/3 x plus 2 does match A, but we don't want that one, guys. We wanted the parallel to this line. And parallel to this line means it has the same slope, but a different y-intercept. So if I go down here, I know it can't be this slope. This slope is a negative slope. Nice negative. So it's definitely not B because it can't be parallel to this line if the slope is negative. I need the same exact slope, 7/3. So if I'm here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. This does have a slope of 7/3. And it has a different y-intercept, and that makes D parallel. Okay, so that's how that one worked. Let's go to number 2. And 3 and 4. Okay, so 2, 3, and 4 were helpful to know the slope formula. Not the only way to do this, but if you remembered that the slope formula was y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. It's the change in the rise, right? So like, remember how we counted on the graph. How far do I go up and how many do I count over? The up is this part. It's the change in the rise that you're counting. But this time we're given 2 points. So we're just subtracting the ordered pairs to figure out what we would have been doing when we were counting. Okay, so y sub 2 is just this one, right? Because this is x sub 2, and this is x sub 1, and this is y sub 1. Those subs are just to differentiate this point from this point. All right, so I'm going to do y sub 2, which is negative 1, minus 2, over 5 minus, what's the x? Negative 6. Notice you're subtracting a negative, right? It's going to be a little... know your integer is going to be a little tricky down there, but negative 1 minus 2 on Desmos, or if you're good with integers, keep change is negative 3. Desmos, if you're good with integers though, and you know keep change, you're going to get an 11 down here. You cannot simplify 3/11ths and the negative sign in front. So it can't be simplified. So you're going to leave that 3/11ths, but the negative in the top or the bottom just makes the whole thing, a whole slope, a negative slope. It's the same as if the 3 was negative. It's the same if the 11 was negative, but we put it in the front. Usually you'll see it written in the front of the fraction. All the same thing though. All right, so that's the slope of that line. The slope of this line that contains these points, I would use the same formula. If you didn't remember the formula, you could have graphed this, right? You could have made your own little graph over here and counted if you remembered rise over run. But I remember the formula. So I'm going to do 4 minus negative 3 on the top. 4 minus negative 3. And on the bottom, 3 minus 3. All right, Desmos tells me, or I'm just good at integers. So I know that 4, keep change is 7. And 3 minus 3 is 0. Uh-oh. If you guys actually did 7 divided by 0 in your calculator, it would come up as an error because dividing by 0 in math is called undefined. It's an error. It doesn't happen. So if you graphed these, you would see that the slope of the line is a straight up and down. It's undefined. It's a vertical line for this one. So for number 3, we were looking for undefined. I think if you just left the fraction dividing by 0, we took some points off, but that is an undefined slope. It's a vertical line. All right, looking at number 4. So we gave you the graph, but we still gave you the ordered pair. So if you remembered the slope formula, you could have done 6 minus negative 10 over 7 minus negative 7. A lot of the mistakes I saw too was that you guys flipped them. And all of these, you were putting the x's on top. That we want to know the change that goes up first, like this change. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So we want to know the rise, the change, the vertical change over the horizontal change, which in this case was 14. Okay, so that number has to go on top, just like the change in y here. So 6 minus negative 10 is keep, change, or Desmos, 16. And then 7 minus negative 7, keep, change, or Desmos should give you 14. Problem with this is that we still need to simplify to 8/7. So the slope of this line is 8/7. And you could have gotten that if you just counted. So if you got 16 over 14, same way, and it's positive, right? So we're good. All right, on to the back. Okay, so you had to graph y equals negative 3. Guys, this is a line. Y equals negative 3 is a line. And we said use any method you choose to graph because there's a lot of different ways you could have gone about this. To me, I picture this. Y always equals negative 3. No matter what x is, I can make x a 2, I can make x a 5, I can make it a negative 2. Whatever x is, y is always negative 3. And if I graphed that over 2 down 3, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, over 2 down 3. And then, oh, I didn't go far enough. That's what happened. Okay. And then over 5 down 3, or left 5 down 3. Whatever I do, it's always going to be on the, it's going to cross the y at negative 3. So a y equals, here's another way a student in my class thought about it. The y equals will always cross the y-axis somewhere. So it's got to be a horizontal line because it's going to cross this y-axis. This one is a x equals 4, which means that this is going to cross the x-axis. So somebody said, okay, if it's x equals 4, this was the trick that they said, I know it's got to cross this and be here, x equals 4. Some of you got this top one wrong because you graphed it at positive 3 instead of negative 3, so you just weren't looking carefully at the negative sign. Some of you just didn't put a whole line and you just put a point, but x equals 4 is a line. It's this point is where it crosses the x-axis and it's a vertical line. We didn't ask you for the slope. Some of you wrote undefined here and some of you wrote 0 here, slope. So that's fine, but that's what wasn't part of the question. So you didn't have to have those. Or in this case, you could always look at this as x always has to equal 4. Always. So no matter what, x is 4, I can make this 0, I can make it negative 5, I can make it 10. So 4, 0, 4, 2, 4, 5, 4, negative 5. Whenever I graph these points, it's going to be a vertical line. All right, the last section was a word problem. You guys overall did pretty good on this. You just got a Snapchat account and you already have 10 friends and you plan to add 3 followers per day, which is the same as friends. Some of you asked like, well, are those different? But we consider them to be the same. So you're going to create a table and a graph for this problem and write a rule for it in slope-intercept form. So to me, I'm thinking about days. On that first day, how many friends did I have? I had 10 friends. The days are input. We're changing the number of days because then that's going to tell me my number of followers, right? So if you wrote that sentence independent, dependent, it would say the number of followers or friends depends on the number of days. So the dependent variable is the followers, which makes the independent variable the number of days. So after day 1, I'm going to have those 10 I started with plus 3 more. And after day 2, I'm going to have those 13, but then I'm going to add 3 more. And day 3, I'm going to have those 16 and I'm going to add 3 more. And day 4, I'm going to add 3 more. So when I graph this, these are my points: 0, 10, 1, 13, 2, 16, 3, 19. And some of you asked about this because the 4 goes off the graph. So if you only graph those points, that's fine. These are the number of days, because that's the independent variable, or the X, and these are the number of followers or friends. And our rule is we get the number of followers from the 10 friends we start with plus 3 friends we gain each day. So if that helps you to say it and kind of write the equation at the same time, we have 10, we started with 10, that's our y-intercept, or our initial value. See how it crosses the y-axis right here? And then we add that to the 3 times x, the 3 times 3 followers we gain per day. You're always kind of looking for that. That's usually the slope, the number we multiply by the x. All right, guys, hope that helped. Hope you figure out your mistakes. And if you have more questions before you do the retake, let us know.